up in an amazing family, raised by an amazing mother. Yeah, I know to those I am close with, I would rant about my family issues with my mom, and she'd be portrayed differently. But no matter what, she raised me right as an adolescent. Her and I have a quite complex relationship. Ever since I was introduced in her life, I've driven her on one hell of a roller coaster, like a really loopy one. It would be a constant cycle of whenever I did something that made my mom upset, I'd mindlessly apologize, promising I wouldn't do it again, but repeating the same mistake in the near future. And as I grew into an adolescent, I made bigger mistakes, causing more grief to my mom, escalating the tension between us. I really wasn't aware of how much of an impact I was making on her. Sometimes I'd wish I'd have a different mom. My mom and I tried seeking therapy. I'd feel like the therapist was always siding with her. As we saw therapy wasn't a big help to our relationship, we stopped going to sessions. We were still in this constant cycle until the day I moved to Bali. I freaking love this place. Everyone just understands, sympathizes, and empathizes with one another. It was like a sweet escape with the usual cycle with my mom. My mom and I didn't really fight because we weren't around each other, but during breaks, I'd go visit her in Hong Kong. It was so annoying. Every time I tried not to make her upset, I just did. Now the cycle was making an impact on me. I'd feel remorseful, like I was letting my mom down. In the beginning of the school year, my mom and I got into a huge conflict. It heavily impacted both of us. Because of my mistake, I missed the first 2 months of school. I knew we were both not going to be able to solve this problem on our own. We needed therapy. I gave it another shot because I wanted the best for my mom and I. My mom and I met Dr. Julia Andre, a German psychologist. At our first session, we both spoke to her how we felt about each other. She later then talked to me, and she said she understood me, my point of view. Hearing that from her made my heart soar. I thought that any adult wouldn't understand me, but she did. As we attended more sessions, my mom and I's relationship was mending back, and soon we were working together to get me back to school. And here I am today. Today I'll be talking about the parent-teen relationship, mostly focusing on the concept of conflict, why they happen, and why sometimes they should happen. Adolescence. During the human development at the age range of 10 to 24, a human undergoes this transition in life, discovering their identity as an adult. I'm pretty sure everyone has gone some sort of conflict in their life. I'm just letting you know it is okay they happen. Everyone's different, and that's why. We have different values, opinions, and personalities. My mom and I are very different from one another. We grew up in different environments, society groups, generations, and we even have different genes. When I was little, my mom adopted me from the Philippines. Instead of retiring from the urban life to her secluded dream house built around vegetation and lakes, she made a commitment to raise me. On social media, when I scroll through my social media, I would see I'd see adolescents posting about a recent argument they had with their parents. Posts based on pain, crying, and misunderstanding, exaggerating that parents hated them because of the conflict. Many would try to avoid conflict because it would be portrayed negatively, associated with words such as frustration, hatred, bitterness, and anger. However, conflicts could be beneficial. You can have new agreements, better understanding of one another, and fresher perspectives. So a conflict starts with a concern. Someone has a problem in the relationship. Usually in the parent-teen relationship, it's the parent addressing the issue. I usually observe that parents have an issue with their child's behavior. Adolescents like me values concepts such as fun, freedom, and friendships, whereas some adults value concepts such as hard work, honor, and honesty. What is responsible for adolescence is all in the brain, the prefrontal cortex. This part of the brain is responsible for decision-making, personality development, and behavior. I'd like to share you guys the four essences of adolescence: emotional spark, social engagement, novelty, and creative exploration. Let me explain these in detail. This is responsible for emotional sensitivity. If an adolescent is confronted by a sensitive topic, it could possibly lead them to rage, have a mental breakdown, or just even be super cheerful. Some parents might misinterpret this as being rude or asking attention. No, this is not why. We are adolescents, not toddlers. We do not tend to be rude. It's just feelings. However, it could lead to sparks of energy and zest for being alive, feeling a sense of vital drive and motivated to try new things. Parents, do you feel like your child's more conservative about their life, wanting more times with their friends, going out every weekend, on their phones during dinner time, or just gaming all night? Well, this is what's responsible for that. Social engagement drives adolescents to socialize more with people alike, desiring a better connection of understanding things. Online, they can keep in touch when they're not physically around each other and see what's going on, or teaming up in video games such as Fortnite and PUBG to achieve that victory. Teens are insecure of sharing their stories with their friends to their parents because sometimes they would be scared that their parents would not approve of what they're doing. Parental suggestions would not be taken into consideration, and we would reject any adult reasoning. But despite the stubbornness for isolating ourselves from you guys, it would lead us to having strong, supportive relationships when we grow up, having these root friendships as we are adults. Novelty. This is quite noticeable. It's a drive for reward. We get to experience new things, thus creating more engagement in life. Adolescents seek the feel of sensation driving our risk-taking behavior. It builds impulsivity towards actions that haven't been thoroughly thought out. How this contributes to adulthood is by sparking us to live more passionately. And this is creative explorations. This is the curiosity spark. Consciousness expands, new conceptual thinking, abstract reasoning develops. We become more creative, thinking outside the box. It leads adolescents on a new path of perspectives, perceiving the world in new ways within consciousness. It causes us to be more vulnerable to peer pressure, and sometimes we get a lack of sense of direction and purpose because we explore so much that we don't really know what we should be really focusing on. All of these essence work together to change an adolescent into an adult. Preventing your child from experiencing adolescence is like fighting the natural push of a waterfall. Don't control what path your child should go on. Instead, be supportive and guide the path your child wants to go on. Remember, the relationship is not one-sided. If your child follows your rules that you have set, it builds this trust, and to validate their appreciation, you should give them a bit more freedom. Okay, wait. So let me set an example. Say you have you set a curfew for your child at 10 p.m. They come home repeatedly by that time or before that. It builds this reliability and trust. By extending the curfew by 30 more minutes, it gives them a feel of understanding, a bit of more freedom, and it builds a better relationship between you two. However, if they break that trust, then we just reset the normal curfew time and let them build that trust back up. Punishments and groundings are found not to be effective because how is your child supposed to build the trust up if you're just keeping them at home? Adolescence is all about experiencing. This is the cone of learning created by Edgar Dale, an American educator. This represents what people usually remember throughout different types of learning styles. As you can see on the top of the triangle, 20% of what we hear gets processed into our mind. Unlike the bottom part of the triangle, 90% of what we experience gets processed. By experiencing these arguments and risky adventures, we learn from them. My lifestyle in Hong Kong is very different. Things are more strict, less freedom. My mom would initiate a curfew at 10 p.m. every night. I missed the freedom that I had in Bali, the night adventures with my friends. I lived on the 40th floor of my apartment complex. I really wanted the sense of freedom, so I decided to sneak out. I found a way of sneaking out besides the front door. I would have to climb on the side of the building, relying on slippery pipes and the slippery pipes that I would be holding and stepping on that don't break, and jump through a tiny hole that led to a fire exit staircase to the other side of the building. It was a life or death stunt, but I did it. I look back to that event and I see how all the 4 aspects I just earlier talked about led me to making that decision. My curiosity led me to finding new ways of sneaking out. My desire to be with my friends drove my novelty-seeking senses and motivating me to make that risk. However, when I faced the consequences, I felt negative emotions affecting my usual behavior, causing me to having crying, raging sessions in my room. Sometimes I blamed my mom's insistent personality and lack of understanding contributed to this bitterness of relationship. If she had given me more freedom, this probably wouldn't have happened. In semester 2, I joined a book club based on the book Greenstone, which was all about adolescence. During the discussions, we shared stories from the perspective of parents and adolescents. As I attended more meetings, I got a better understanding of the perspective of a parent. It may not be understandable what the decisions your parents make for you, but it is for your best. House rules should not be seen as punishments, yet as tools to help build good habits into your lifestyle as an adult. Later on in the semester, I took a workshop hosted by Ibu Janet, a community member of Green School. She made me take this behavioral assessment called the DISC theory. The DISC theory is based on 4 different behavioral traits: driver, influencer, supporter, and conscientious. Before the assessment, I thought my mom and I fought a lot because of our differences. But it was maybe because we were too similar. I made my mom take the test and I compared our results. What do you know? We were both high drivers. Drivers are known to be demanding kind of people and insistent on their ways. And of course, when you have 2 people wanting 2 different things, it causes conflict. However, I saw that my mom was a high supporter, which made me understand how we were able to solve our conflicts and get what we both wanted. Plus, she just wanted me to be happy. By getting a better understanding of my mother and I, it helped me learn how to manage our conflicts better. It is not me versus her. It is us versus the problem. We need to step into each other's shoes more. Even struggling understanding the decisions my mom makes for me, I accept them by keeping in mind how much my mom has dedicated for me. She just wants the best for me and to see me happy. Isn't that what all parents want for their child? However, when conflict pops up, it is important to validate each other's perspectives. Validation gives each of the people feeling to be truly understood, even though you do not necessarily have to agree with them. You acknowledge the other person's thoughts and feelings are true. And if the other person feels more understood, they become forgiving and nice. I always remember the privileges my mom has given me, even though I've broken her trust multiple times. I don't deserve them, but I saw how she stepped into my shoes as an adolescent, and because of that, I did the same. Even though Dr. Julia Andre was a help to our relationship, it was my mom and I who were the main ones that contributed to mending it back. If we never stepped into each other's shoes and got our messages across, would I be here talking about my Greenstone? Mom, thank you so much for this life you've given me. I love you.